So in Portland, a homeless community village is going to be shut down because of major violence, specifically gun violence. It seems like gun violence is happening everywhere, right? And you would think that the folks that are, run homeless communities, they'd be able to figure out a solution. But even they are at a point where they're like, yeah, no mas, we're not doing this anymore. Our job was to provide wraparound services to the homeless community. Being first responders, being in a triage position of having to respond to actual shootings, that's not what they signed up for. They're calling it quits on one of their homeless encampments. That is what we're talking about today here on News for Reasonable People. Thanks for tuning in. If you're new, welcome. My name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies here in Seattle, Washington. I read the news. It's what we're doing. All right. Thanks for joining. Old Town Homeless Village to close after community safety concerns. I love the way the media just, it's a safety concern. Somebody got shot and killed, and now that's become, it's been brought to our attention, and now it's a safety concern. Just the euphemisms the media has for, we've got some safety issues that we need to reimagine and rethink, and we want to reanalyze and relook at it. In the meantime, we're getting the F out of town on this bad boy. And that's literally what we're doing, right? It's wild. Let's take a look at a quick video. There's some points in here that I think you'll enjoy. And this is from Coin.
And Allgood Northwest has several shelters or villages they operate or plan to operate. And for Old Town community leaders here say they're not surprised by this decision because violence is something they see every day.
It speaks volumes that an organization like Allgood would need to leave because it was so unsafe.
A business owner and leader of the Old Town Community Association, Jesse Burke, was not surprised about the decision for the homeless village in Old Town to close.
I think it's a bummer to lose a good neighbor like Allgood, but I know why, and it's not safe. It's traumatizing for staff and people living there.
Staff were hearing gunshots throughout the day and throughout the night. Even had staff who were the first responders at a shooting. That's not the work that we're contracted to do in that space.
The shelter will close at the end of the month, and the Joint Office of Homeless Services is working through a variety of places for the 40 people living there now to go.
Yeah, there's no great way to analyze this and go, okay, all of this is going in the right direction, right? Because here's the thing. You got all these folks on the street. They've got a plethora of issues going on. That's how you end up homeless, right? Maybe you've got something going on mentally where you're not dealing with a full deck of cards. Maybe you've got a drug addiction. Maybe you've got both of those. You've got some kind of trauma that happened to you. You're out on the streets. You're trying to get into a safer situation. And then you end up in a homeless village and they've got shootings, and the counselors there at the community are basically saying, yeah, this isn't what we signed up for. We do not want to be in the front line of being shot. So they're closing down a homeless community. And from my understanding, it is just this one specific community that's kind of in the Old Town in Portland that we're talking about, that's been the focus of just so much violence. So, we talk about, well, we need more shelters. We need more shelters. Okay. Who are you going to have police those shelters? Because a lot of the same things that are happening out on the streets, those are going to follow those folks into the shelter system. And so now you're going to have little tiny villages filled with crime. I mean, that's just how this is going to go. It doesn't go from crime-ridden and homeless encampments out on the street, take those same people, move them out of their tents, move them into tiny homes, and then all of a sudden, magically, their social issues go away. That doesn't really happen. So, let's be reasonable, right? That doesn't happen. So, this is what we're working on. This is it. So, this is what we got. Just as the homeless issues in Old Town in Portland were seeming to catch momentum, the outdoor village homeless shelter in the neighborhood is closing. We talk about, hey, we need more RV encampments. Well, we've had that in Seattle, and we just got back to the point where we're enforcing the 72-hour rule, which is you got to move your vehicle every 72 hours. And I'm not saying that's right, but you got a lot of tax-paying citizens who are saying, hey, our streets are clogged up. We can't park in our neighborhood because of all these RVs that are parked there illegally. So we need a balance here. But at one point in time, we've had RV parking lots where you can come in. You know why they closed down? Nobody wanted to park their rig there. How come? Because they were wildly violent? Okay, so this is a social experiment that we've done before, huh? Okay. Well, what about getting some of these folks the mental help they need? Yep. And what about taking the other ones that have criminal issues and putting them in jail? Yeah. Oof, yeah. Ho. Now we're talking reality. Nobody wants to do that. We're years away from anything constructive like that actually happening. Some might argue, hey, we're doing good work here. Well, you're doing good work, but you might get killed because somebody might shoot you, is what you're saying. The village was operated by All Good Northwest, an organization dedicated to providing wraparound services to transition people from homelessness to permanent housing, but an increase in violence, specifically around guns, became too much for the organization's staff to bear. Let's talk about that for a second. Do you think these folks are walking into a gun store and getting a legal handgun? Are they walking in? Are they getting, are they getting their gun permit? Are they getting a background check? Do you think these folks that are willing to shoot each other or going down those roads, all the things that we seem to be so focused on to quell gun violence? Probably not. They're probably working with the stolen handgun, right? Yeah. So how about you handle a stolen handgun? Minimum 10 years. Just boom, done. Just no chance for parole. Just stolen handgun. Yeah. You get a hefty little sentence. What about that? That's one of my thoughts is, okay, well, who's doing the shooting? Well, a bunch of these people with stolen guns. All right, let's start backwards. Let's reverse engineer this scenario. Who's doing the majority of the shootings? Well, thugs on the street. All right. Well, you catch them with a stolen gun. Get them out of here. It's one of my thoughts anyway. We had shootings in very close proximity to the village in Old Town. We even had staff who were the first responders at a shooting. It just became a dangerous and untenable situation, Andy Goebel said, the executive director of All Good. Goebel says it was traumatic to his staff, who he points out are well-trained to work in shelters and situations involving people experiencing mental health problems. Some of his staff even reported symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, so people got their boats rocked, right? And remember in the whole defund the police, they wanted to shift that money away to social workers? Well, that's basically who we've got here. And they are saying, yeah, we don't want to respond to shootings. Seems to be a pattern there, right? Something bad happens. You going to call Ghostbusters? No. Call 911. You hope for officer friendly, and you hope for big officer friendly because you want them to fix your problem. That's not the work that we're contracted to do in that space. That's my favorite quote from this article. That's not the work that we're contracted to do in that space, meaning the homeless encampment. The work, meaning helping people on the streets, not triage first aid. All right, got another homeless camper bleeding out because he got shot by his neighbor. That's not what they're basically stating they want to do. Our job is to house people and to take care of their needs on the ground. Unfortunately, right now, needs on the ground are being shot, doing some shooting, carjackings, that type of thing. So, some of this stuff it's just gone way beyond what you could expect of some folks whose hearts are probably in the right place as far as trying to help their fellow human being. But even they're saying, you know what, Uncle, all done here. That's not the work that we're contracted to do in that space. No can do. Shootings, off limits. Those are not in the job description. Having to patch somebody up with bullet holes until 911 gets here, which could be a while because they got other shootings going on all around the city as well. The village will close at the end of June, and the Joint Office of Housing Services is working to find other settings for the 40 people who live there. That sucks for those people living there, right? You finally get into decent housing. Sounds like it was more of a permanent situation. And then you got to go because of some knuckleheads, shooting it out in the Wild West style in the alley behind the place. It comes as the Old Town Community Association was seeing progress towards its goal of creating a safer environment in the area until it wasn't, right? I mean, during the association's monthly meeting on Wednesday, the group reported the count of tents in the neighborhood far exceeded 300 during the winter. A count in May found less than 90 tents. The chair of the organization, Jesse Burke, who also owns the Society Hotel in Old Town, says reducing the number of tents isn't the goal. Safety is. Well, and keeping people alive, I believe, would be one of those other cross goals. I wasn't surprised. I think it's a bummer to lose a good neighbor like all good, but I know why. It's not safe. So in creating all of these, we're going to a tiny village concept, right? Tiny little homes in a village, lots of density. So it could be argued that you are creating these little tiny areas that are just rife with individuals who are probably committing crimes, who are probably on drugs. I mean, in order to be in most of these places, they've got a bunch of rules and you can't be doing that stuff. But I don't know if you've ever lived with somebody or had somebody in your life who's, life isn't going the way it should be, and they're either hooked on drugs or they're doing some criminal activity, or maybe they're just mentally not in a place where they're stable. But those people, they tend to relapse from time to time. And when they do that, all bets are off and anything goes. So you've got these folks trying to get their lives together. You're going to have some chaos. I don't know if you've ever visited like a sober house or a halfway house, people getting out of jail, out of prison. You got some drama going on. You just do, because, you're half a step away from things just going sideways at all times. And it kind of sounds like that's what we had at this one center. And unfortunately, it's going to have to shut down because even the people who day in and day out deal with this stuff, they're like, not more. Not what we signed up for. Shut her down. Let's go work at the other one. It's 30% safer. Something along those lines. If the goal is to help people heal and recover and get to a more stable life, it's not the place to do it, is what they're saying about this encampment. Dennis Thoroltz, the Deputy Communications Director for the Multnomah County, who handles communications for the JOHS, which is the Joint something, says there are the same options in Old Town, like a few day shelters and a behavioral health resources center set to open in the fall. So they've got stuff to cover it, but in the meantime, they're going to have to kick the 40 people to a different location, and they will no longer be doing it there because too dangerous. People getting shot. All right, so something of just a little bit more interest. Mayor Ted Wheeler's proposed current budget pass with the current funding for homeless services. The money will be in place for an additional 800 or so beds to be added in the next year. So what we've done is we've gone on this mad scramble. That's a new one. #scrumble. We've gone on this mad dash to find money within cities' budgets. And maybe we use some COVID money. We use some federal money to basically house the homeless. We've gone on this, this mission. We're going to create, beds. We're going to create roofs over their heads. Now we're getting to that point where we're creating those, and then we're going to have to look and see what the end results are. Are these doable long term? And for a lot of the folks I see suffering from homelessness over in Seattle, I don't think you can put them in a community and it's going to work out. Right? I mean, they literally take the same mindset they've got out on the streets where they're living in a tent, where Seattle just throws them a tent, throws them food, throws them services and, clean needles and lets them do whatever they want. You take those folks and you put them into housing, you still got the same problems there. And why wouldn't you have shootings? So those are some of my concerns is that, okay, yeah, that percentage, they belong in detox. that percentage of this groups, they belong in prison. And so then you're left with a handful of folks that have legit reasons for why they're the homeless, and you got to work on them. So, just these massive issues, and just creating a budget and just creating money towards that, funding that budget, it's not going to do it. Not going to do it. And that's if you can get these people into housing. There's a large percentage. I don't know how many podcasts I've read where it's been 45 people were, living on the streets, were offered shelter. 3 of them took it. And you're like, okay, the rest, 92% didn't take how come? Why not? Because they want to keep doing their same thing. They don't want to go through rehab. They don't want to, lead a normal life. They don't want to get a job. They don't want to be locked into a schedule where they got to get up in the morning and go do something, come back and have a safe place to stay. They don't want that. Their lifestyle, that's what they're doing, and they're going to keep doing that. And you see that time and time and time again. So even if you have all the beds in the world for all these folks, you're still going to have a big population that wants to continue doing their thing. How are we going to handle that? Are you going to throw them in jail? For how long? I mean, you're going to clog up our jails with that? I mean, we got real criminals running around doing stuff that, we need to go that direction. So I don't think there aren't great answers out there, especially the way we're handling it. Well, create a tiny village and it'll all go away once we get them a roof over their head. That's that housing first, and then the other stuff will follow. Okay, but if they get killed with a bullet before they reach that shelter, how's that working out? Not good. So you've got a homeless village that's there to service its folks, basically saying, no can do. We're still going to keep helping folks, just not at this location. Too dangerous. Might get killed. Or people are getting PTSD thinking about doing their job. That's not good. That's not a healthy work environment. All right. That's all I got for you on this one. Thanks so much for being here. We'll catch up soon. Talk then. Bye for now.